Good afternoon and welcome to Wellbeing Wednesday live again here on the For Flourishing Sake. No, not for flourishing sake. I've got too many things going on with the word flourishing in on the Educate to Flourish channel. Welcome to Wellbeing Wednesday live. It's a pleasure to be here again. And today I have a very special guest and I'll be introducing her shortly. But before we do, if you've been with us a few times before, you'll know that the first thing that we do is to take the emotional temperature of the virtual room. So we like to have a look at how people are feeling and talk about how we're feeling. The odd thing is whenever I have a guest, I kind of do this back to front because I'll ask my guest shortly as well to tell me a little bit about how she's feeling and the words she's contributed, but I won't have introduced her yet. But that's fine. So I'll just share the screen with you now so that you can see how to join in. And here we go. Got too many screens open at the same time. Right, so hopefully you can see now that the way that you can join in is by going to polev.com. That's polev.com. And when you are there, you can type in the code, which is FredrickSon992, and you should see that there at the top of your screen. So if you go to polev.com and then type in FredrickSon992, you'll then get the option to say how you're feeling. So you can put lots of words in at the same time, or rather you can put in lots of words, but put them in one at a time and then press enter, and then it'll split those up. So and you can put emojis in as well if you want. So either if you're on the phone, you can actually use the emoji keyboard, or you can type emojis in and it'll convert them to emojis. So my guest and I have started off and put ours in there. So you can see that grateful is quite big and tired and happy are quite big, which are the words that obviously both of us have put in there. And one of them, you've got a little exploding brain emoji. That's me. I've started a new part-time job this week and it's been great, but my brain's just trying to take in so much information and I've just felt a bit like, whoa, and that's why I put bamboozled on there as well. So I'll bring you in as well, Laura, and I'll ask you to introduce yourself properly shortly, but do you want to talk about some of your words and why they're there at all?
Absolutely. I mean, I haven't got anything as exciting as bamboozled.
It's one of my favorite words.
But like you, I put down tired, happy and grateful, which I think is quite funny that we played snap on that one. Feeling grateful for the opportunity to have a talk with people today and share some ideas, and also tired just because that's the way of things at the moment. There's ups and downs with peaks of energy and then slumps of tiredness. And I'm having a good day. I'm feeling happy, and I've got some good things going on personally and work-wise. So, and I'm happy to be here, happy to have this chance to talk with you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. And I can see that we've also got some more that have appeared there, which is fantastic. So we've got great and thank, which might be thankful. So it's really great. Carry on doing it. And if I see it changing as today goes on, as this half-hour webinar goes on, then I might come back to it. But I'll also take a screenshot at the end. I do keep forgetting to share them afterwards, but I have got the screenshots of the past ones. And we've also got a comment there. We've got Anna Harrington who's joined in. Hello, Anna. And Anna's saying, hello, everyone. How are you all? Well, you can see we're feeling all sorts of things, Anna. Bamboozled, happy, grateful, tired. And how are you? Let us know. Great to have us joining us. And if anybody else wants to leave comments, or if you have any questions for me or for Laura as we progress, then just type into the live chat, which should be to the right of your screen as you're watching this on YouTube. And so without further ado, I shall carry on with some introductions. So very little bit about me. If you don't know me already, I'm Fredrickson Roberts. I'm the founder of Educate to Flourish. My brain is really very, very bamboozled today. So I'm the founder of Educate to Flourish, an organization, community interest company that's set up to support flourishing of children that are still in full-time education in whatever setting they are. And I'm also a speaker and trainer in all things well-being, positive psychology, positive education, and character education, known as the Happiness Speaker. And you can see there on the screen, I've written a few books on the topic, one which is a generic one, Recipe for Happiness, for anyone that wants a few tips on well-being, and then a Character Toolkit for Teachers, which I co-wrote with Elizabeth Wright, packed full of activities for teachers and parents as well, not just teachers, to use in the classroom or in any setting with children to support development of character and well-being. And then the latest one for Flourishing's Sake, which is coming out in ebook format on the 18th of June and as a paperback on the 21st of August. So I'm getting very excited about that at the moment. So that's enough about me. I'm your host for today, but I am very, very lucky to have a fantastic guest to share the space and to share some great information with you today. So I'll just say a couple of words and then pass over to her. So today we have the lovely Laura Martin with us. You can see there on the screen her contact details if you want to reach out to her via Twitter at Improve My WB. And also, if you want to contact her, if you go to her website, there's a contact tab on there and you can get in touch with her directly that way as well. And Laura I've known for a few months now. She's a former teacher and also somebody who, like me, did a master's in applied positive psychology at Anglia Ruskin University, though we didn't actually meet during the course because we did that separately. So small world, isn't it, Laura?
It is a small world.
So I'll hand over to you to introduce yourself with anything else you want to say about yourself, and then talk
Lovely.
to us about today's topic.
Lovely, thanks, Fred. There's not a lot to add to your introduction, really. I am a former teacher. I'm actually still doing part-time teaching as well. And I completed the MAP last October, so focusing on things like child wellbeing, positive education, and coaching. And at the moment, I'm working in consultancy to bring positive education and general positive psychology into schools and improving teacher well-being as well as child well-being, and trying to get some infrastructure within schools to implement that. And as you can see behind Fred, my blog there is my go-to point for sharing ideas and articles and things to do with both well-being for the individual as well as the children in our lives. And please do feel free to contact me. And I've just got, Fred, today some slides to share. And what I really want to do is look at some research from positive psychology and discuss some findings from positive emotions and gratitude, and how we can actually apply these in practical ways to our lives. So both to improve our well-being as individuals and adults, as well as the children in our lives. So I'm just going to open that up there. Just bear with me a second.
And that's so relevant right now, particularly with us going through such an unusual time, and we all need every tool at our disposal, really, to boost our well-being.
Absolutely, definitely. So let's have a little look. I just wanted to start with just a brief touch on emotions there, and obviously acknowledging that all emotions are valuable, whether we call them negative or positive. They're all there for a purpose, and they're triggered by events, whether they're in our past, our present, or our future. And they impact our behavior and thoughts every day. I mean, we were just talking earlier, Fred, when I came on, the different things that have triggered the way we feel in the emotional temperature, and I'm sure they'll impact our behaviour both today and going forwards, and acknowledge the fact as well that we can feel multiple emotions at the same time, things like fear and hope, or anger and love. There's lots of contrasting emotions that we can experience simultaneously, but I really wanted to focus on the research behind positive emotions and the benefits that has been shown that they can bring, because they can build our personal resilience, as well as bringing in factors that build up our emotional and social resources. So there's lots of different positive emotions identified, like love, joy, gratitude, amusement, hope, and things like that. And what Barbara Fredrickson, who's one of the researchers I know you'll know well, cause upward spirals is that they feed into each other, and the more we are open to and aware of one positive emotion, the more likely we are to be open to opportunities to experience other positive emotions, causing what she calls upward spirals. And I think it's really important as well, Fred, to address some of the criticism positive psychology faces, is that perhaps it might be a band-aid solution to problems that are more widespread, systemic problems or ingrained problems in our culture or our society, and that the idea of thinking positively or trying to get people to be happy all the time is kind of slapping a band-aid over a bigger problem.
It's
And
that Pollyanna thing, isn't it?
absolutely, yeah, and it's a criticism that is understandable, but is also in many ways incorrect of positive psychology, because as you know, it's really offering you tools and skills to boost your resilience and well-being. It's not making us forget that there are real problems out there that need addressing, and there is social change that needs to happen. So it's just acknowledging the fact that we can build our resilience and we can build our well-being up by experiencing more positive emotions. So I just wanted to be clear about that. I'm not suggesting we're positive all the time or we're happy all the time. I'm just suggesting that we add things to our toolkit to improve our well-being. And so the thing I wanted to focus today on is on gratitude, which is one of my favorite topics for numerous reasons. I just wanted to link back to something I think you and Selena were talking last week, Selena from Amazing People Schools, and you were talking about character strengths. And I remember you saying that gratitude is identified as a character strength, which is absolutely correct, as well as a positive emotion. And one of the other things that it's identified is intentional practice or an attitude, so a deliberate way of living and being and expressing our gratitude towards people. And it's really important. I've done this word bubble in the middle because language is important when it comes to gratitude, is that some language might be more natural to some people than others. So it might have an affinity to them. So for example, people might like the word gratitude, or they might prefer appreciate, or they might prefer acknowledgement or praise, or being noticed. And then other language, for example, counting your blessings might put people off. It might tune them off to activities to do with gratitude. So I think it's very important to be open to using different types of language when we're talking about gratitude. I don't know if you feel the same way to do with that, if there's certain words that resonate with you or put you off more than others.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, actually, because sometimes gratitude, I suppose, can bring up almost a feeling of indebtedness in some people, and therefore it can have a bit of a negative connotation. And also depending on what age group of people you're working with as well. So if I work with young children, for example, in a school, I would quite often talk about being thankful.
Yes.
Because they might understand that better than the word gratitude.
Absolutely.
So and it's really nice to actually see things like noticed and recognition as well, and praise, because those are really interesting words that we can use in different settings, and particularly thinking in work settings as well, where people might perhaps, depending on the work environment, feel a little bit uncomfortable using something as big as gratitude or grateful. So that's really good. It's a lovely little word cloud there with some great alternative words.
I'm sure there's more words that we could add to it, but it was just a starting point there to think about, and just realize that we don't all respond to certain types of language in the same way. I mean, the broad definition I've just popped at the top there is the ability to recognize and acknowledge the good things, people and places in our life. So very broad. And so if it's an automatic response, then it begs the question, why is it so hard for us to remain grateful? Why aren't we skipping around and grateful for every single moment in our lives and all the people in our lives? And there's three main reasons for this. One, we're on autopilot, we're busy, we're distracted, we're stressed, we don't stop and we don't pay attention to what's going on around us. Our minds are bamboozled. There's also the fact of the hedonic treadmill effect. So when we first get a new phone and we're really excited about it, we're sharing it with our friends and we've wanted it for ages and it makes us feel good, etc. And then after time the novelty wears off, we take it for granted, and then we might start looking to upgrade and get another one. So we just adapt to things, and they no longer bring us as much joy or happiness as they once did. And then the last one is the negativity bias, the fact that we're prone to paying more attention to negative things around us, whether it's in the media, whether it's feedback from your university essays, whether it's an observation in class and you get 5 glowing comments and then you get 1 comment to work on and it really sticks in your mind and you really think like, oh, I wish I could have done that better. Oh, I keep making that same mistake again. How can I improve? And we do hold on to those negative things more than we do the positive things in our life. So there's 3 things there why it's hard to remain grateful, why we're not automatically grateful all the time. And then if you look at what creates gratitude, so what I really want to look at is what creates gratitude from a review of the literature, and then later on, what can gratitude create in people? And then finally, we'll look at some practical ideas and things that we can use at home with children or in the classroom or just for ourselves as well. And if you look at a review of the literature, it really suggests that gratitude is felt and expressed when we focus on things that are good, and we acknowledge that these things don't always come from ourselves, they come from other people or they come from things around us. We might feel it as an emotional response to a perceived benefit that somebody's actions have given us, or when we consciously decide to express, there's a nice phrase, the inner attitude of gratitude to others. So we might feel gratitude, but we might not always express it to others. So consciously deciding to show your gratefulness or your appreciation towards somebody is another way of expressing or feeling gratitude. And then obviously there's the point there that we can't be grateful for everything. We shouldn't be grateful for everything. But if we stop and we think, there's usually, not always, but there's usually something that or somebody that we can be grateful for. And I was just reflecting on, all the anxiety and the stress and the fear and all the things that the current pandemic has brought to us, all the emotions that it's brought to us. And then I mentioned to you earlier, Fred, is that one of the things it has also provided is an opportunity to feel grateful for things that we normally take for granted. So things like our routines, we might find them boring sometimes, but they give us a sense of security, a sense of safety, and they've gone out the window. Our health, we can be grateful for having our health, or if we're sick and we've gotten better, we can be grateful that we're well again. We're grateful, we clap for our key workers every Thursday night now. We're grateful for the NHS more than perhaps we were before. Our socializing, our ability to see friends. I miss my friends. I miss my family. It's wonderful to have things like Zoom and phone calls and things like that. It's not quite the same, but I'm much more grateful for connecting with friends abroad, friends in this country, and my family abroad than perhaps I once was before. I just took it automatically for granted. And then the freedom to move and travel, go and I can see the beach out my window, being able to go and sit on the beach. Apparently today I can start doing it, but up until today I couldn't do it. I looked wistfully out the window wondering when and if I could go and sit in the sunshine on the beach. So starting from tomorrow, hopefully the sun shines and I'll be able to do that. But I'm much more grateful that it's there and I can access it now that I'm allowed. And then I think it's really important as well. You mentioned character strengths with Selena last week, and some people are inherently more grateful, able to feel it and express it than others. And it's just natural to their disposition. But it's really important to recognize that we can all become more grateful if we engage in activities that be designed to make us both feel and express gratitude more easily. Where do you feel you rate yourself on grateful disposition? Do you think you're naturally a grateful person? Does it
Yeah, I
gel
think
well
so.
with?
It's one of my very high, sort of high up on my VIA character strengths
Mm,
profile, and it's something.
mm,
It was something that before I even got into positive psychology, I found that I wasn't writing it down, but I just found that I just felt it. You know, even in really difficult circumstances, I would naturally gravitate towards looking what was still good at the time to
mm,
kind of keep me going. Um, and I often joke that when I then started looking at positive psychology, and you know, the shattering disappointment that I hadn't come up with something brand new, because I thought, oh, I'm onto something here. This is really great, this stuff I'm doing, and then realized that it had all been researched before, which of course is great because it means it's not just you or me saying it. It's actually been researched.
absolutely.
And we know that this
Yeah,
stuff
there's
is really
evidencing.
powerful.
Mhm,
But yeah, and
mhm,
I think for, you know, possibly a lot of people like you or me, Laura, who work in positive
mhm,
psychology, perhaps have a more natural disposition towards a lot of this stuff, including
mm,
gratitude. And I
mm,
think it's really important to remember when we're kind of teaching others about this and recommending practices to recognize that perhaps not everybody finds it as easy as a practice to get into, to really kind of practice gratitude deliberately, for example.
mhm, mhm,
So,
mhm,
do
mhm.
you have sort of,
Yeah,
as we've got about
absolutely, I
10
agree.
minutes to go, do you
Yeah,
have sort of some really good activities then that we can share with parents, teachers, and obviously for them to use on themselves and their children,
absolutely. Yeah. I,
to bring
what
that in?
I'll do is, because I know these slides are recorded. So what I'll do is I'll whiz through. So I just had some points there. What can it create? Individual benefits, physical health outcomes, collective benefits. What I'll do is I will just come through to the practical points, Fred, that I wanted to share. So let's have a little look here. Here we go. So established practices, ones that we know of that have been tried and tested. We've got the gratitude journal, which most people know of, where you're writing 3 good things down, for example, at the end of your day, and reflecting on why they happened and who was involved in it, how they made you feel. And then we've got the gratitude letter and visit, where you're actually identifying a person that you're grateful for. You're writing a letter to them explaining what they mean to you and why you're grateful to them.
Mm,
And then there's another step to that. If you want to read it to them, or if you actually want to take it to them in person, then that's been found to have powerful effects. And then there's imagery, imagining a place or an event that makes you happy, and thinking about where you went, who you saw, and what you were grateful for, etc. But these ones are established. What I wanted to look at is ways that we could use more ideas in schools. So, I mean, much of the research in gratitude in education is currently focused on children, their well-being, their relationships, pro-social action, and how we can encourage more acts of kindness and better connection within schools. There's been very less research when it comes to staff and leadership.
mm,
But common reported benefits are better connections between people within school. Student-teacher relationships have been boosted, improved well-being overall. So I've got too much information on this slide, so I'm just going to move on to practical information. Here we go. So ideas to try at home or at school. So you could start trying these now with your children, or you could be aiming to incorporate them into activities when you are returning to school, whether it's in July or September. So activity 1 is taking part in an ongoing project. So you can be collecting examples of what makes you grateful. And you could do it digitally, or you could do it in a scrapbook, you could do it in a shoebox, physical objects, and it can be created for private reflection, or depending on your personality and the people that you're working with, then it could be shared as well. You just got to know yourself, obviously, and know your pupils and their boundaries. And then the activity 2 that I wanted to share is thinking about a specific point in time and noting down the bits that stood out to you, and then looking back at the same point in time, looking through it with fresh eyes and thinking, what could I be grateful for? What could I be more appreciative of? Not making up those events, but just really thinking about it, reflecting on it, so that you're more aware of those events, and they become more obvious to you, and then you could always continue that as a practice ongoing, or do it as a one-off activity. And then there's two more, is drawing a circle, basically, whether you want to call it a pizza, a cake, a pie, splitting it into different parts that represent your life. So again, you could be doing this, or you could be doing this with children, and then thinking of two things that really you appreciate about those different parts of life, and noting them down and revisiting and adding to it whenever you can. And that really makes you reflect on what good things you've got going on, and who the people are in your life that mean a lot to you.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a nice visual way as well. And it can be private, or it can be a shared activity. It really depends on the individual. And then activity 4 is going for a walk. So if it's you and you're out and about now, then turning off your electronics. I've got a habit of listening to podcasts or music when I'm walking. But if you actually turn off your electronics, really pay attention to what's around you. Again, I can walk out, I can hear the sea as well as lots of people around me, but I can hear the sea if I really listen. There's birds around, there's loads and loads of dogs running around, and I really find pleasure out of watching the dogs rolling around, having a lovely time, chasing things, and just looking ecstatic over the smallest little things out there. So looking out for things that you appreciate. And if you're doing this with children, then you could always turn it into an art project. So you could begin an art project at home, or as a collaborative project when you return to school, whether it's in July or in September time. So there's just 4 activities there that you could begin to try to instill more of a grateful or appreciative outlook within children and within yourself. Right now, as we're still currently going through the pandemic and the lockdown and the social distancing, but also going into the future when we're thinking about building healthy habits, and bringing more behaviors that will improve our well-being and make us make those little lasting changes to our lives, really. And what I skipped through, Fred, is, I can just sum up here, is that I really wanted to point out caveats, is that not everybody will react in the same way to gratitude exercises or experience gratitude. As you mentioned earlier, some people will feel frustration, they'll feel guilt, they'll feel, like, as you mentioned, a sense of indebtedness. And so not everybody will react in a positive manner to gratitude interventions or gratitude activities. So you really have to know yourself and the people around you, and be sensitive to differences between people. But there are benefits that can be had if you choose to engage with these activities. And the reason why I like gratitude so much is that it's got real potential for not only improving our well-being, but the well-being of those around us. So it's got bigger potential than just focusing on the individual, which is why it's one of my favorite topics. And then finally, be realistic. It takes effort, it takes time, it takes motivation and desire to change if we're going to make lasting changes to our behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really important to remember as well, that even if it doesn't come naturally, that if you just try and stick at it and see if it works for you, and be realistic that, it won't just suddenly become second nature. That's a very important point. So well, thank you so much for that. I know you've got some resources that you want to for us to have a look at as well, which we'll do in a moment. I just wanted to come to the comments, because we've got a few comments as well. So Anna Harrington, who commented at the start of this session as well, we were asking her how she was, and she made a point that actually I thought was really relevant to what you're saying about being able to experience conflicting emotions as well. So she said that she's great, busy, excited, but also a little mindful of the volume of future work. And I think that's absolutely fine. Of course, we're all feeling a little bit, particularly in education. We're kind of watching this wave of work coming at schools and trying to adapt to how this is going to all work as children gradually start returning to schools. So it's absolutely fine and understandable to feel that way.
Yeah.
And by the same token, also to still be happy on a day-to-day basis, and to still feel grateful for lots of little things and big things.
Yeah.
And it's just, as you were saying before, Laura, that it's not all about just trying to paint a lovely rosy picture over it, but it's just about accepting the whole plethora of what we feel. So thanks for sharing that, Anna. She also put a lovely comment. Thank you very much, Laura and Frederica. Really clear presentation, like the way it just focused on one topic. Excellent. Thank you for that feedback. That's great. And then we've got message from Miss Duffy, who's asking if we have any advice on how teachers can make connections with pupils while social distancing, as building relationships and community will be really important on the return to school. Well, I think as a proper answer, Miss Duffy, that would be one that perhaps in a future Wellbeing Wednesday, maybe it's something that I can tackle next week. But a very quick one on that, I would say, and I don't know if you agree, Laura, but certainly everything that you've been talking about in terms of gratitude and expressing that in all the various ways that you've talked about, whether it's done remotely, while children are not in school, or even once we return to school, to really build on that. I think that can be an absolutely essential building block to building and reinforcing those connections between staff and pupils, as there's been all this enforced distance. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, I one of the points I whizzed through because I was ambitious with my volume of content was that there's a lot of really interesting talk about how we're going to go back to education, whenever that may be, and how it can't just be business as usual. And one of the points I think is really important is as you've just said, as well as acknowledging the loss and the trauma that different children may have experienced, we also need to build in opportunities for them to express and feel positive emotions as well. And gratitude can be one of those that you can add to your toolkit with practical ideas and activities. So no, I do agree with what you're saying there, Fred.
Brilliant, thank you. And the other thing I would say to Miss Duffy, you know, which is nothing to do with gratitude, but in terms of the building relationships, I think while we are still in the current situation, obviously with remote working in a lot of cases, but also once there's a return to school and you've still got to try somehow in a school environment to enforce social distancing, is to not underestimate just how much those children will appreciate just being in the same room as you when they're able to be. Even what I'm hearing a lot of teachers say that their children are telling them while they're remotely connecting with them is how much they just like to hear their teacher's voice.
Absolutely.
So even though you're having to have this enforced distance, and that can be particularly difficult when you're teaching very young children who perhaps would be used to their teachers being a lot more hands-on, really, just being in the same room after all this absence and just being able to hear your voice in the same room will be hugely beneficial to those children. So don't underestimate that, because I think there will be, to use today's topic, I think they'll be really grateful, even if they don't express it as that, but they will be really grateful to have that opportunity to be in the same room with their teacher and with at least some of their friends, even if they can't connect as much as they would normally want to. So I hope that helps, Miss Duffy. But come back next week, because that would be a really good topic to kind of talk about how we actually reinforce those connections with social distancing. So I'll make a note of that. Thank you for the topic tip. So Laura, I'm conscious that it is past, but I'm sure people will forgive us for going a couple of minutes over if we just share some quick resources. So did you have some websites or resources that you just wanted to share as well?
Yeah, here we go. So I'm actually going to send you these links, Fred, so that you can just post them and people can click on them directly and access them. So there's some interesting articles there that people might be interested in reading for themselves. And then some useful links to explore. There's these two down here. I don't know if you can see my mouse wiggling on the screen or not, but on the bottom left of the screen, there's two different lesson ideas for different age groups down here from the Greater Good Science Centre. There's videos here from Fredrickson and Lubomirsky discussing the benefits of gratitude and positive emotions. So there's links embedded there. And then there's various links to different websites that offer free activities generating gratitude resources, as well as a plethora of other activities to do with positive psychology and education, but I've deliberately targeted gratitude activities to share there. And then obviously I do have books that I do have as go-to. So I've got your book here, and I know that you've got well, I know that you've got lots of activities in there that are brilliant, that promote character education and positive education. And there is a chapter on gratitude, and also Wellbeing in the Primary Classroom. There's
I love that book. Yeah.
There about gratitude as well, that you can use to embed practices within your class. So yeah, those were my links to share, and I'll make sure that you get them. So I'll just stop sharing my screen now.
Fabulous. And I'll just share one more link, and yeah, if straight afterwards you send me those links, I'll put them into the description of this YouTube video, so anybody watching the replay will be able to see the links. So I'll just quickly share my screen once I've actually got the right bit showing on there. So this is something, because I was thinking, what could I share related to gratitude? And I remembered something as I was thinking about journaling, and I haven't used it for a while because I tend to just write pen and paper in a beautiful paper journal, which gives me a lot of pleasure because I have a bit of a thing about stationery, but and also because it's one that my girls got me, so it's got little inscriptions that they put in when they gave me it for one of my birthdays. But actually I remembered about this app which a good friend of mine had told me about a while ago, that I have used when traveling and I wanted to jot down some gratitudes, and it's the Journey app, and I believe it works both on Apple devices and on Android, because I'm sure my friend works on Apple and I've got an Android phone. And of course you can go onto the website, which is what you're seeing on the screen right now, but I've only ever used it as an app on my phone. And it's kind of a really quick and easy journaling app. You can pay, but I've only ever used the free version. It's been absolutely fine. I always try to share free resources, as have you obviously as well, Laura. So I've always used the free version of this, and you can very quickly just journal about stuff in there. And the beauty of it, as opposed if you like to go a bit further than just writing things down, is that you can add photographs to your journaling experience as well. So it keeps a really lovely visual record of some of the things that you've experienced that day. And it then pops up little reminders on your phone as well when you've got the app installed to actually go back and journal at the end of the day, which I thought was really lovely. And although I've not used it that much, what I have used it for is when I have traveled, and it's really handy because every now and again I think, oh, I remember that in that app I'd actually put the name of that restaurant that I particularly like to go to in such and such a city. And I know we're not traveling at the moment, but at some point we will again. And so it's really useful to just have it as a little reminder as well, because you can put links and things like that. So it just enhances a little bit your kind of journaling experience. And for people who want to be a bit more technology driven by how they record their gratitudes, that's one of the ways that they can do it. I just love the photograph element of it as well. So
that's really nice.
It's a lovely little app. So we are really at the end of today's session. So I'll just come back to, you're very welcome, Mrs. Duffy, Miss Duffy, even. I married you off there. We're very welcome, Miss Duffy. I hope you found that useful. So lovely to have some live comments there today. The replay will be up, and with the replay in the description will be all the links. And of course, the beauty of all of this, and with the fantastic information you had in your slides there, Laura, is that people will be able to just pause it in the replay and read in more detail as well. So thanks for putting so much really wonderful, valuable information in there. All that's left for me to say is really, if you have any tips that you want to share and you have some expertise either as an educator, a parent, or somebody in the well-being arena that relate to well-being, particularly at this time, then do get in touch if you want to be a guest on a future episode. I will just very quickly put my contact details on the screen for you. So you can contact me on Twitter at Fredrica_R, or at the Educate to Flourish Twitter account as well, which is at @eduflourish. Do follow me on there, of course, as well. And you can email me, fred@educate2flourish.org.uk. And I'll just pop Laura's details on there again as well. So if you want to get in touch or follow Laura @improvemywb on Twitter, and go to her website, improvemywellbeing.com, and there's a contact page on there. And there's also fantastic blog posts and resources, links, etc. So do go and check it out. So if you want to be a guest, get in touch with me. If you want to share any resources that you'd like me to share at the end of the future episodes, then do send those across to me. And you can always use the hashtags as well, which are Wellbeing Wednesday Live and WB Wed Live. It's always difficult to say that one, but it's quicker to type if you've not got many characters in Twitter. That's why I use both. So Wellbeing Wednesday Live and WB Wed Live on Twitter, and I monitor those as well for any comments, etc., and suggestions. So thank you so much again, Laura. It's been wonderful having you on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And I'm sure people will really benefit from watching this back as well. So we're done for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you again next week on Wednesday, Wellbeing Wednesday Live. That's it. My brain and my mouth have disconnected now. On Wellbeing Wednesday Live at 4:00 UK time, again next Wednesday and every week for the foreseeable future. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Fred.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.